I stayed hungry, giving food for nights, just to save enough for her favorite dress. But when I showed it with trembling hope, she laughed softly, and said another man had already covered her in silk. I need to tell someone this story, before it eats me alive from the inside. Maybe putting it out there will help me sleep again. Maybe it won't. I don't know anymore. Her name was Sarah. We'd been together for 3 years, living together for 1. I thought I was going to marry her. The dress cost $340. I know because I counted every dollar, twice. For 6 weeks. I ate nothing but ramen and peanut butter sandwiches. Skipped lunches at work. Told my coworkers I was intermittent fasting. When they asked why I never joined them at restaurants anymore. Sarah loved this particular dress. Emerald green silk. From some boutique downtown. She'd stop and stare at it every time we walked past. Touch the window like she was blessing it. Someday, she'd whisper. And I'd squeeze her hand and promise I'd make that someday happen. I'm making that $38K a year, at a marketing firm. Barely enough to cover rent, utilities, groceries for 2 people. But I wanted to see her face when she unwrapped that dress. Wanted to be the man who could give her beautiful things. The hunger was worth it. The dizzy spells at work. The way my clothes started loose. Worth it for the moment I'd hand her that box, and watch her eyes light. I had it all planned. Friday night, her birthday weekend. I'd hidden the dress box in my car for 3 days. Checking on it like it might disappear. My hands were actually shaking when I carried it to our apartment. Sarah. I called out. I'm home. No answer. Her car was in the parking lot. Maybe she was napping. I found her in the bedroom. She was standing in front of the mirror, wearing the dress. The exact dress. The emerald green silk that had cost me 6 weeks of hunger. She turned when she heard me. Beautiful. Radiant. The dress fit her perfectly. Oh, she said, noticing the box in my hands. Then she laughed. Not mean. Just surprised. Ryan, what's that? I couldn't speak, couldn't move. The box felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Eyes that did get me the dress. She walked over, still in the silk I'd starved to buy. That's so sweet, but... She gestured down at herself. Marcus got it for me yesterday. He said he couldn't stand seeing me want something so badly. She laughed again, softer this time. He told me how always stopped at that window. Thought it was romantic that noticed what I loved. Marcus. Her coworker. The guy who drove the BMW and took clients to expensive dinners. I've been saving for weeks. I managed to say. Oh honey. Her face crumpled with sympathy. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. If I'd known. But she didn't take the dress off. She stood there in my dream, paid for by another man's effortless generosity. Can return it? She asked gently. I nodded, though I wasn't sure. The boutique had a strict no-return policy. That night, she thanked Marcus over text while I sat on our couch holding the useless box. "You're amazing," she wrote. "It fits perfectly. Ryan got the same one, so crazy. Great minds think alike." She was being kind. Trying to make Marcus feel good about his gesture. But watching her type those words, seeing her smile at her phone, something cracked inside me. The next Monday, I took the dress back anyway. The boutique owner was sympathetic but firm. No returns. I walked out with the same box. A 340 poorer, 6 weeks hungrier, and something fundamental broken in my chest. Sarah wore Marcus's dress to dinner that Friday. She looked stunning. Kept catching her reflection in windows, touching the silk like it was made of dreams. "Thank again for trying," she said over dessert. "It means everything that wanted to do that for me." But she was wearing his silk, not mine. The resentment started small. A bitter taste when she texted him about work. A spike of anger when he called during our movie nights. She'd like talking about his promotion. His vacation stories. His funny observations about their shared projects. "He's just easy to talk to," she'd say when I pointed out how often his name came. 3 weeks later. When I came home early from a dentist appointment, I found it in our kitchen, not doing anything wrong. Just talking. Laughing. She was wearing the dress again, and he was leaning against our counter like he belonged there. "Ryan," Sarah jumped slightly. "We're home early." Marcus straightened, all smiles and handshakes. "Great place guys have here." Sarah was showing me those photos from camping trip. Our photos. On our refrigerator. In our home. After he left, I asked why he'd been there. He dropped off some client files. Stayed for coffee. That's all. But the kitchen smelled like his cologne, and she was still glowing from whatever they'd been laughing about. The doubt started eating me alive. Every late work meeting. Every friendly text. Every time she mentioned his name with that little smile. I became someone I didn't recognize. Checking her phone when she showered. Looking through her work emails. Finding nothing, which somehow made it worse. 2 months after the dress incident, Sarah's sister Katie invited us to her birthday party. Sarah spent an hour getting ready, finally settling on the dress. Look beautiful, I said, meaning it, hating it. At the party, Marcus showed. Because of course he did. Sarah's sister worked at the same company. I watched him compliment the dress. Watched Sarah's face light as she thanked him again. Watched other people learn the story. How thoughtful Marcus was. How he'd noticed what Sarah wanted, and just made it happen. That's true love right there. Someone said, gesturing between Sarah and Marcus. When a man pays attention like that. Sarah laughed and corrected them. Pointing at me. But the moment hung in the air. The assumption. The way it made more sense to everyone that Marcus would be the one to notice, to provide. To satisfy her wants. I excused to the bathroom, and stared at my reflection. When had I gotten so thin? So hollow, looking. I'd never really recovered from those 6 weeks of hunger. Still eating less. Still trying to save money. Still carrying the weight of that useless gesture. When I came back, Sarah and Marcus were dancing. Nothing inappropriate. Just friends dancing at a party. But she was wearing his gift, and laughing at something he'd whispered, and I was standing by the snack table watching from the outside. That night, driving home, Sarah asked if I was okay. Fine, I lied. Seemed distant lately, we barely talk anymore. We're talking now. Are we? She turned in her seat to face me. Because it feels like her angry all the time. Like her looking for reasons to be upset with me. She wasn't wrong. I was angry. At her, at Marcus. At for being the kind of man who had to starve himself to afford a $340 dress, while other men bought them, as casual gestures. I'm just tired. I said. The rest of the drive was quiet. When we got home, she changed out of the dress and hung it carefully in the closet. The silk caught the light as she smoothed it down. I love, she said, kissing my cheek. I hope know that. But love wasn't the same as respect. Love wasn't the same as admiration. Love wasn't the same as seeing someone as capable, as worthy, as enough. I started staying later at work. Not because I had to, but because going home meant seeing the dress in our closet. Meant watching Sarah text Marcus about their shared projects. Meant pretending I was fine with being the boyfriend who couldn't provide another man. Could give without thinking twice. The hunger had never really stopped. It just changed shape. I was starving for respect. For admiration. For the feeling that I mattered as much as the man who could buy silk dresses without counting dollars or skipping meals. 2 weeks later. A new girl started at my company. Jennifer. She laughed at my jokes, asked about my weekend plans, complimented the way I handled difficult clients. When she suggested grabbing drinks after a particularly successful presentation, I said yes. I told it was just celebration. Just colleagues. Just harmless. But when she leaned close to tell me how impressed she was with my work, when she touched my arm and said I was exactly the kind of man she wished she could find, when she made me feel capable and wanted and enough, I didn't pull away. The betrayal started with a lie about working late. A simple text to Sarah. Big project deadline, won't be home until after midnight. But I wasn't in the office. I was at a hotel bar with Jennifer. Listening to her tell me everything I'd stopped believing about. That I was smart. That I was funny. That I was the kind of man worth choosing. At 11 p.m., when Jennifer suggested we continue the conversation in her hotel room, I made a choice that would destroy everything. I followed her upstairs. Sarah was asleep when I finally came home at 2 a.m. The dress was in the closet, catching the streetlight through our bedroom window. I stood there staring at it, knowing I'd just become the kind of man who didn't deserve forgiveness. The silk seemed to shimmer with accusation, and for the first time since I'd bought my own useless version, I understood something terrible. The dress had never been the problem. The affair lasted 3 months. 3 months of stolen moments, elaborate lies, and watching become when I swore I'd never be. Jennifer made me feel like a king. Every text was validation. Every secret meeting was proof that I was desirable, that I mattered, that someone chose me first. Girlfriend doesn't appreciate what she has. She'd whisper during our lunch meetings. F were mine. I'd never let feel invisible. I started believing it. Started thinking Sarah was the problem. That she'd created the situation by making me feel small. By accepting another man's gifts. By lighting for Marcus in ways she'd stopped lighting for me. The lies came easier each week. Late client meetings. Weekend conferences. Emergency projects that required overnight stays. Sarah trusted me completely. That made it worse. I'm proud of how hard you're working. She'd say, kissing me goodbye before another business trip. I know we're building something great. She'd pack my bags. Make sure I had my phone charger. Text me sweet messages while I was in hotel rooms with another woman. I compartmentalized everything. Convinced it wasn't really cheating because my heart wasn't in it. I was just taking what I needed to feel human again. What Sarah had inadvertently denied me. But compartments have a way of breaking down. It started with small slips. Jennifer's perfume lingering on my shirt. A restaurant receipt in my pocket from a place I'd never been with Sarah. A text that came through while Sarah was holding my phone. Can't wait for Detroit. Who's that? Sarah asked, her voice carefully neutral. My turn to ice. Work. Jennifer from accounting. She's having issues with her expense reports. We're meeting to go through them. A night. She works late too. It's the only time that works for both of us. Sarah stared at the text. At the heart emoji. At the obvious intimacy of the message. Accounting sends hearts now. She's just friendly. Know how some people text. Sarah handed me the phone without another word. But something had shifted in her eyes. A door closing. Trust cracking. I went to that meeting anyway. Told I had to, or Jennifer would get suspicious. Told Sarah suspicion was her problem, not mine. But when I came home at midnight, Sarah was sitting at our kitchen table. Still awake. Still dressed. The dress box from months ago was sitting in front of her. My empty dress box. I was cleaning out the closet. She said quietly, found this in the back. I couldn't speak. $40. She held the receipt I'd forgotten was taped to the bottom. Ryan. This dress cost $340. My stomach dropped. I called the boutique. Asked about returns. They told me someone had tried to return this exact dress. In this exact size. The Monday after my birthday, but their policy is no returns. She set the receipt down carefully. Kept the box. Why did keep the box of a dress returned? I didn't return it. Then where is it? The lie felt like swallowing glass. I gave it to charity. After got the other one. Seemed wasteful to keep it. Which charity? I don't remember. Good maybe. Sarah nodded slowly. Goodwill doesn't take items worth over $200 without documentation. For tax purposes. When had she become a detective? When had I become someone who needed investigating? Sarah. I don't understand what you're trying to prove here. I'm trying to understand why my boyfriend has been lying to me. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. The dress story doesn't make sense. Work schedule doesn't make sense. The way I've been acting doesn't make sense. She pulled out her phone. I called office today. Asked to speak with Jennifer from accounting. My heart stopped. There is no Jennifer in accounting, Ryan. There's a Jennifer in marketing. Jennifer Walsh. I looked her on LinkedIn. She turned the phone toward me. Jennifer's professional headshot filled the screen. Beautiful. Successful. The woman who'd been telling me I was enough, while I betrayed the woman who'd actually chosen to build a with me. She's pretty. Sarah said. She the reason, been working so late. The question hung in the air like smoke from a fire I'd set. I could have confessed then. Could have fallen to my knees and begged forgiveness. Could have told Sarah everything and hoped love would be stronger than betrayal. Instead, I got angry. Being paranoid. I said. Going through my things. Call in my office, interrogating me like I'm some kind of criminal. This is crazy, Sarah, crazy. Her voice rose for the first time. It's crazy to wonder why my boyfriend lies about dresses and has mysterious women texting him hearts. She's a colleague! We work on projects together. What projects? What company projects require heart emojis and hotel room numbers? I was trapped. Every answer led to more questions. Every lie required bigger lies. Know what? I grabbed my keys. I don't need to be accused and investigated in my own home. Where are going? Somewhere I don't have to defend for working hard and having female colleagues. I slammed the door behind me. Knowing I was making everything worse, unable to stop. I drove to Jennifer's apartment. Told her Sarah was getting suspicious. Asked if I could stay the night. Of course, she said, wrapping her arms around me. She doesn't deserve anyway. Anyone who makes feel like have to defend isn't worth keeping. But as I lay in Jennifer's bed that night, staring at the ceiling, all I could think about was Sarah, sitting at our kitchen table. The way her hands had shaken. The careful control in her voice as her world fell apart. I came home the next morning to silence. Sarah was gone. Her clothes were gone. The emerald dress was gone. There was a note on the kitchen table. Next to the empty dress box. Ryan, I don't know who you've become, but it's not the man I fell in love with. I'm staying at Katie's while I figure out what's next. We need space to think about whether we can fix this. I love, but I can't live with lies. Sarah. The apartment felt massive and empty. Every room echoed. Every corner held memories of the I'd just destroyed. I called her, texted, left voicemails. Sarah, please come home. We can talk about this. I can explain everything. But I couldn't explain everything. Not without admitting to 3 months of betrayal. Not without destroying the last bit of respect she might still have for me. Jennifer was sympathetic when I told her Sarah had left. It's for the best, she said. No, we don't have to sneak around anymore. We can be together properly. Together properly. The words felt like I'd never wanted to be together with Jennifer properly. I'd wanted to feel desired by her. While keeping the I'd built with Sarah, I'd wanted the validation without the consequences. But consequences don't ask permission. 2 weeks later, I got a text from Sarah's sister Katie. Sarah knows about the affair. About Jennifer. About all of it. One of co-workers saw it too at a restaurant and told someone, who told Sarah. She's devastated. She's not eating, not sleeping. I've never seen her like this. I hope it was worth it. My hands were shaking as I typed back. Can I see her? Can I talk to her? She doesn't want to see. She's talking to a lawyer. A lawyer. The word hit like a physical. We weren't married, but we'd been living together. Shared bank accounts. Shared car insurance. Shared everything. I called Sarah directly. For the first time in 2 weeks, she answered. What do you want, Ryan? Her voice was flat. Empty. Nothing like the woman who used to light when I walked through the door. I want to explain. I want to apologize. I want to fix this. Fix this. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Can't fix betrayal. Can't take back 3 months of lies. It didn't mean anything. She doesn't mean anything. That's supposed to make me feel better. That destroyed our relationship for someone who doesn't matter. I didn't have an answer for that. I trusted. She said. And her voice finally broke. I trusted completely. When people asked if I worried about working late, traveling, spending time with female colleagues, I defended. I told them weren't that kind of man. The silence stretched between us. Are is wrong, she whispered. Are exactly that kind of man. The line went dead. I sat in our empty apartment. Surrounded by the we'd built together. And understood for the first time what I'd actually lost. Not just Sarah, not just our relationship. I'd lost the person I used to be. The man who kept promises. The man who chose love over ego. The man who would have been horrified by the person I'd become. Jennifer texted me that evening asking if I wanted to get dinner and celebrate our freedom. I stared at the message for a long time, then typed back. I think I need some time alone. Because for the first time in months, I was starting to see clearly. And what I saw was that I'd traded everything real for something, and there was no going back. The divorce papers arrived 3 weeks later. Even though we weren't married, Sarah wanted everything legal and final. Division of assets. Separation of accounts. Dissolution of the we'd built. I signed them, in the parking lot of a McDonald's at 2 a.m., because I couldn't stand to have them in the apartment another second. Jennifer lasted another month. Once the thrill of secrecy was gone, once there was nothing to steal or destroy, the relationship revealed itself for what it really was. Empty validation between two broken people. Or not the same person I met. She complained during our last dinner together. Or depressed. Never want to go anywhere, or do anything. She was right. I wasn't the same person. The man she'd been attracted to was confident, charming, someone worth pursuing. But that man had been a lie, built on stolen moments, and the adrenaline of betrayal. The real me was sitting across from her in a chain restaurant, unable to finish my food, wondering how I'd become someone who could throw away 3 years of love for 3 months of nothing. I think we should take a break, Jennifer said, already checking her phone for better options. I nodded. Felt nothing. She could have told me she was moving to Mars, and I would have had the same reaction. 2 days later, I saw her at a company happy hour. Laughing with someone from the sales team. Her hand on his arm. The same look she used to give me when I was her secret. I left early and drove home to my empty apartment. The worst part wasn't the loneliness. It was the slow realization of how much I'd lost that I hadn't even noticed while I was losing it. Sarah's laugh when she found something genuinely funny. Not polite social laughter. The way she'd grab my hand during scary movies, even though she pretended to be tough. Her terrible singing in the shower every morning. The way she'd text me random thoughts throughout the day. Like I was the first person she wanted to share things with. How she'd light when I came home from work. Like seeing me was the best part of her day. When had I stopped appreciating that? When had I started taking it for granted? I found checking her social media obsessively. She'd changed her relationship status to single. Started posting pictures with friends I didn't recognize. Smiling in ways that looked forced but were getting more natural over time. She looked like she was healing. Moving on. I looked like I was dying. Work became impossible to focus on. My performance reviews went from tilt to concerning. I was making mistakes, missing deadlines, showing late. Everything okay at home? My manager asked during our quarterly check-in. Fine. I lied. Just going through a rough patch. But it wasn't a rough patch. It was a complete collapse of everything I'd built my identity on. I wasn't Sarah's boyfriend anymore. I wasn't the man she loved and trusted and chose every day. I wasn't half of a couple with shared dreams and inside jokes and plans for the future. I was just Ryan. Alone. Starting over at 29 with nothing to show for the last 3 years except mistakes and regrets. The isolation was crushing. Sarah had been my social. My emergency contact. My +1 to everything. My reason to come home at night. Without her, I realized how small my world actually was. A few work actually was. Some college friends I barely kept in touch with. Nobody who really knew me. Nobody who would notice if I disappeared for weeks. I started therapy. Mostly because I couldn't afford not to. Dr. Martinez was patient but direct. What do you think we're looking for in the affair? She asked during our 3rd session. I don't know. Validation, I guess. Feeling wanted. Felt unwanted by Sarah. Not unwanted. Just, less than. Like I wasn't enough. Can give me an example. I told her about the dress. About Marcus. About feeling like a failure because I had to starve to afford something he could buy without thinking. And believe Sarah preferred Marcus too. She lit around him. She appreciated his gestures more than mine. Did she leave for Marcus? The question hit like a punch. No. She left me for cheating. So, the perceived from Marcus wasn't actually real. But response to that perceived was very real. And it destroyed relationship. I sat in silence, absorbing that truth. Ryan destroyed relationship because we're afraid of losing it. Do see the irony there? I saw it. God, did I see it. 6 months after Sarah left, I ran into her at a coffee shop downtown. She looked good. Healthier than she had in the months before everything fell apart. Her hair was shorter, her smile was real, and she was with someone. Not Marcus. A stranger. Someone I'd never seen before. He was holding her hand. She was laughing at something he'd said. When she saw me, the laughter died. Ryan. She said quietly. Sarah. Hi. The man with her squeezed her hand supportively. She'd told him about me, obviously, about what I'd done. How are? She asked. Because she was still kind. Even to the person who'd shattered her trust. I'm working on therapy. Trying to understand how I became someone who could like that. She nodded. I hope that helps. Sarah, I know this doesn't matter now, but I need to know that I'm sorry. Not sorry I got caught. Sorry that I became someone capable of betraying. Deserved so much better. Her eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed steady. Yes, I did. The man with her looked uncomfortable, but he didn't pull her away. He let her have this moment. I loved, she said. I loved so much that when people warned me about men, who travel for work, who have female colleagues, who work late, I defended. I told them they didn't know like I did. She paused, wiping her eyes. Turns out I didn't know either. They left a few minutes later. I watched them walk away together, her head on his shoulder, his arm protective around her waist. The way I used to hold her. The way I'd lost the right to hold her. I sat in that coffee shop for 2 hours, staring at my untouched drink, understanding finally and completely what I'd destroyed. Not just a relationship, not just love. I'd destroyed trust, faith, the belief that promises matter, that commitment means something, that when someone chooses, it's sacred. Sarah had chosen me every day for 3 years. Even when Marcus bought her dresses. Even when work got stressful. Even when other options presented themselves. She chose me. And I ate away because my ego was too fragile to handle feeling ordinary. At night, I wrote her a letter I knew I'd never send. Sarah. I know I don't have the right to contact anymore. But I need to say this somewhere, even if never read it. I know now that the dress was never about the dress. It was about me feeling like I wasn't good enough for her. And instead of talking to about that. Instead of trusting love. I looked for validation somewhere else. I convinced didn't appreciate me, but the truth is I didn't appreciate. I didn't appreciate being chosen by someone extraordinary. I didn't appreciate being trusted by someone who had every reason to trust me. I didn't appreciate being loved by someone who made loving easy. I ruined the best thing that ever happened to me, because I was too insecure to believe I deserved it. Were right. When said I wasn't the man fell in love with. But here's what I'm finally understanding. I was never that man to begin with. That man was just who I was when I felt loved by. Without love, I became exactly the kind of person who would betray it. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect another chance. I just want to know that losing taught me what I had, but only after it was too late to matter. I folded the letter, and put her with the empty dress box. 2 symbols of the same lesson. Some mistakes can't be returned, can't be exchanged, can't be made right. A year later, I saw Sarah's engagement announcement on social media. The same man from the coffee shop. She looked radiant in a way I don't remember her ever looking with me. In the comments, her sister Katie had written, "So happy, found someone who deserves trust." The word, deserves, felt like a blade. I closed the app and haven't opened her profile since. I'm writing this, 2 years later, still alone, still in therapy, still trying to become someone worthy of the kind of love I destroyed. I don't know if that person exists inside me. I don't know if I'll ever trust with someone's heart again. But I know this, every morning I wake hungry for something I can never have back, wearing the consequences of choices that revealed who I really was when it mattered most. The dress hangs in someone else's closet now, on someone else's body. Bought by someone else's hands, appreciated by someone who earned the right to give it. And I'm still here, counting the cost of a hunger that consumed everything I ever wanted to feed.